you.
Appreciate the opportunity, David, to be here today. Thanks for sticking around to listen to what we're doing at the University of Notre Dame. I'm Scott Rinehart. I'm Director of Broadcast Technology in a new division of campus called Notre Dame Studios. And my friend Helen will introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Helen Hockx-Yu. I'm a program manager, and my role is jointly funded by the Office of Information Technologies and the Hesberg Libraries. So what we do are related, and it will become clear as we progress.
As we progress. So let's just jump right in and get going. Just real quick, let me give you a level set on who Notre Dame is. Founded in 1842, and what's interesting now is it's the 175th anniversary coming up, so keep that in mind as we continue to talk. Notre Dame, since its beginning, has been at the forefront of research and scholarship, aerodynamics of glider flight, transmission of wireless messages. The formula for synthetic rubber was created on campus. And it's established the first programs in law, engineering, and architecture at an American Catholic institution. The reason these little nuggets are important is that lots of incredible things come out of the University of Notre Dame. So the class of 2020 statistics, so if you want your kids to come, 48% were ranked in the top 1% of their high school class, 94% were in the top 10%, and the average SAT score was 1510. So we have I'm just going to speak for myself. I have no doubt that these kids are going to create more things that we need to take care of during the course of their time at the university. And then the mission from Father Soren, our founder, is to be a force to do great in the world. Okay, so there's our starting point. So Helen, you want to start with the problem?
Okay, I'm going to stand. So much of what we do nowadays at the university is digital. So it underpins all activities, teaching, learning, and research. So we have a campus-wide challenge. So all the digital assets we create, look after, purchase, given to, how do we manage that? It's not the first time we addressed this challenge. We had previous initiatives which delivered pieces of infrastructure and some processes, but we didn't find the perfect solution. I actually doubt if that exists. It's a very big and broad problem. So we're revisiting this. Why? Because it is critical to help achieve our overall aspiration. So I joined the university last September, and like I said, my role is jointly funded by the Office of Information Technologies and Hesberg Library. I report directly to our CIO. So I undertook a stakeholder consultation in the last 6 months. The goal is to have an understanding of the current state of digital asset management at Notre Dame, identify the gaps and requirements, and come up with a strategy, campus-wide strategy, and implement it. So this will keep me busy for a while, I think. So I spoke to about 90 people across 25 departments between the 1st of September and end of February this year, looked at ongoing and previous initiatives, and I made some discoveries. So before we look into the details, I would like to define, when we say digital assets, what we're talking about. I think we're talking about records, data, resources in digital format, digitized or born digital, which are regarded as having a value, and therefore the university needs to retain them for a certain period of time or preserve them for the long term. So I'm looking at 3 broad categories. University records are defined as information recorded during the course of conducting university service and kept as evidence of that activity. Research data is information recorded in relevant fields as the result of research. And then there's a 3rd broad category of digital resources which are used to support teaching, learning, and research. We're typically talking about the library holdings, assets created by different departments, donated data sets, and MOOCs, like massive open online courses, which also embeds video. So if you look at this 3 broad categories, there are videos in all of them. So I think the scope for digital asset management is broad and is varied at Notre Dame. So we're not talking about just research data, we're talking about all formats, tweets, electronic messaging, audio, video, emails, what have you. So the findings has given us some things to think about. I think we're in a very good position to readdress this issue and look at some of the gaps. There is a very strong focus on now. The digital assets are far from unmanaged at Notre Dame. The fact is we have a large number of applications managing data records across campus. The issue perhaps is that these are managed by different departments, not necessarily talking to each other. So there's lack of central coordination. And we have found evidence of assets being lost. And we have found evidence of digital assets at risk of being lost. I'm, for example, talking about magnetic tapes, from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I stumbled onto a few hundred stored somewhere in a building on the 4th floor of the student media office, and I discovered recordings of several presidents when they came to speak at campus, and literary, figures. They really need to be restored in a controlled environment, and some of it really is very close to the, maximum lifespan, when we talk about magnetic tapes. And I think we could also do better in systematically collecting and preserving our digital outputs. For example, all the things on the web disappear very quickly. But the issue really is that we are at a basic level where we need to have a view of what we create, what we have, because they're all scattered across campus under different departments' custodianship. So I think essentially we're talking about two very key challenges. One is to get a handle on what we have and collect them, go through the process of determining what is of critical importance to our future and retain those. And then once we know about them, how do we make sure that these assets withstand, the change of time, of technology? So there's some examples to illustrate that point. So our marketing department keeping the record of the number of times Notre Dame being mentioned in news. So there's a running mention of that on our website. It has a running mention of news related to Notre Dame between 2009 and 2017. I checked December 2009. 60% of the linked news articles have disappeared, giving me 404s and other errors. And here's another example. Someone had to write a step-by-step guide for some of the purchases of the British singer Adele CD in 2015, because people don't know where to put it. Some people don't even know that they had to take off the plastic wrapper first and not put the shiny side up when you try to play it. So these are the things we take for granted, but if we don't document it, over time, that knowledge will be lost. So if we just kept the bits on the disks, on tapes, and without proactively caring for our assets, this will happen at some point. So very quickly, some next steps. So the consultation, 12 recommendations emerged from the consultation exercise. I'll give you an example. One recommendation is to amend our Notre Dame strategic goal to state, where we state providing superb stewardship of our physical, financial, and human resources. The recommendation is to add a category of new assets where superb stewardship is required, namely digital. And the recommendation, I will not go into the details of the recommendations, but they are constructed against 3 pillars of policy, process, and technology. At this precise moment, I'm actually looking at planning a digital asset program to address some of the issues we have discovered and to implement some of the recommendations. So if you look at the program, it has, I would say, a temporary, like 3 temporal dimensions. It addresses the past, those legacy content of critical importance needs to be digitized to move to a different carrier, different format. It addresses the future. We're looking at our preservation, ongoing capability of safeguarding our digital assets. It also addresses now. So that's where the video asset project come in, which Scott and I work on. So this is against the background of ND Studio, which Scott will tell you more about in a little bit. So while we bring all the digital media, most of the digital media production on campus together, this actually provides an opportunity to break some of the silos and to look at how we coordinate the management of our video assets. So this, essentially, the video asset management program, project, really needs to be seen in conjunction with the wider digital asset management program. So we're going to start somewhere, where video production is an area where we have considerable experiences. So I think I'm going to, at this point, give the floor to Scott so that he can tell you about what we're trying to do in terms of media production and video asset management.
Thank you, Helen. So when Helen came on and started this discovery around campus, just from my perspective, I came out of athletics, just so you can understand where I was. And we had started asset management 5 years ago when I came because there was a realization that somebody had to do something about all these born digital files because we didn't have tape anymore, couldn't put a label on them. You couldn't use file structure. You look creative, start doing file structures, and I'm sure we all know what we get when that happens. So we started in athletics, and the vision was always to take what we had done in athletics and try to start and branch it out into a bigger part of campus. So this Campus Crossroads project started probably 4 years ago, and it's the largest building initiative in the university's history. It's a $400 million, 3-building, 750,000 square foot construction project. It's taken 3 years to get this far, and part of this is to build a digital media center on campus, which is to begin consolidating the university's digital media departments and people that are starting to create content for the good of the university. And that's how Notre Dame Studios got started. So to give you a sense of the size of these buildings, that is the football stadium. These surround the stadium. They are 90% student related, so it's not really a sports thing. So there's a sacred music building. Here's the student center. That's probably about 120 yards long and, 75, 80, 90 feet wide. And then the Corbett Family Hall is where we are going to be located as well on the bottom floor there. So Notre Dame Studios says is going to be the production hub for campus. The idea is to start bringing these departments together. So we have athletics, marketing, distance learning, and Catholic media all coming in into this space, as well as some folks from the academic media side. We're going to leverage all the knowledge that we're gained with athletics. So when we had a meeting with all of these folks, everybody, the folks that have not done asset management are all waiting for that perfect system. They want to be able to have it behave like Microsoft Office. Take the disk, if you have a disk, put it in your computer, hit install, and it does its little magic, and just miraculously, asset management just happens. Well, we know that doesn't happen, so we're going to drive it from the athletics side where we've already done the taxonomy and started to figure some of this out. Taxonomy challenges, these are always fun, right? So what are you going to call the buildings on campus? Between athletics, the acronyms for buildings, and the acronyms don't necessarily reflect the official name of the building, and buildings change names over time. So as we're thinking through this, we're trying to figure out how do we, I'm a hoarder, I'm like Karen Foreman, I want to keep 100% of everything, but the archives doesn't want that. They only want to keep things that are of historic significance to the university. So how are we going to have that communication where I'm going to call the building the same thing that the archives is going to call it? And we decided to focus on video assets because we have a little bit of knowledge on that and we can get started, and that's how we're going to get started, with some knowledge that we know. And then after that, I feel like this is like an onion. We're going to start here in ND Studios with video, and then we're going to start encompassing photos, and then we'll start working our way out to all of these other things that have been identified that we need to take care of. Just pictures of what we're doing. This is the core of our facility. For my friend Mr. Olson here, he'll understand this. This is going to be the first, my understanding from Evertz is this is the first fully IP production facility in the world. That's my understanding. We only have SDI baseband video where we have to, and we're pushing the IP technology out to the edge. Those, let's see, those little gray tubs in the bottom right, each one of those holds 576 fibers. So we are a fiber-dense facility to move video, audio, and other resources around. And we're trying to figure out now, how do we take this infrastructure, this IP technology, and branch it out into, say, the research side of campus. So we have professors that go out and they do research in Central Africa, in India, all over the world. What do? They create these digital assets, they make 2 copies of them on USB drives, and they both get on the same plane to fly back to South Bend. Doesn't quite follow the normal OIT strategy for being safe with your assets. So my vision is, how do we take this television technology of IP and branch it out beyond the 4 walls of campus and be able to provide a service that's going to help everybody? There it is. So moving forward, Notre Dame overall has a cloud-first initiative, so every decision that we make now in this area has to have a cloud discussion surrounding it. Video, as those files get bigger, we all know that's not a good place to put high-res video. In athletics, we have a half a petabyte of images of video today that we have to deal with, and it's just not possible to move it all up to the cloud and do that. But what we're going to do is, we did look at cloud-based solutions, and we are going to take the originals and we are going to put DR copies up in Amazon to get them off campus so we can meet the need of being on a cloud-based solution. So just so you know, here's the, I always thought this was interesting when I found this little nugget, was the cloud-based solutions are supposed to solve these things: capacity, resiliency, agility, cost, and innovation. And suddenly, asset management has become a high-profile project. And the reason it's become a high-profile project is because of this construction project that happened, because we had success within one small little part of the university that people had heard about. And they said, how do you find your video? So they would come in and I would show them, and they were just amazed at how this is done. And so my message on this is to perfection doesn't exist in this world. If it does, I'm not aware of it. If anybody's got it, I would love to hear about it, but I don't think it is, because of the types of assets that we're going to have to deal with on campus. There's going to be specialty software to address those particular needs. So how do we take that specialty software and fold it into our asset management system? And that's going to be through the wonders of API, XML, and all these other little programming things that I don't completely understand. But we're going to link all these things together in order to have a cohesive asset management system, ecosystem for all of campus down the road. At least that's our dream, right?
Yeah, it's going to take a long time.
It's going to take a long time to get this done. But if we tried to do it all at once, you just can't bite it all off. And after hearing Coca-Cola yesterday, I cannot imagine sitting down and getting that news one day. Hi, do this asset management for Coca-Cola. All at once, around the world, 207 countries, 10 billion assets. I can't get my head around that myself.
At least there is some, they're dealing with a certain type of
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And really our challenge is the variety of content that we're dealing with. and the expansion of the definition of what a digital asset is now. Most of the time in the past, it's always been related to an audio, video, photo asset. And now we're taking websites, tweets, blogs, research. All of that's going to fall under the umbrella at some point. So I believe this is the parting thought that Helen had in a presentation, and I love it, so I'm going to share it with you today. The present has its most serious duty to history in saving the past for the benefit of the future. From 113 years ago, and to me, it's very apropos that statement from 100 years ago is still relevant today to all the work that people here are doing.